amid the most intense Russian airstrikes to date, engulfing numerous Ukrainian cities in smoke and fire. The U.S.'s unexpected decision to temporarily halt certain critical weapon shipments has deeply alarmed Kyiv. Although the White House insists this is merely a tactical adjustment, the move has immediately sparked a strong wave of reactions from Ukrainian officials, citizens, and international observers alike. On July 2nd, U.S. officials clarified the White House's statement regarding Washington's temporary suspension of certain weapons shipments to Ukraine, affirming that President Donald Trump still has numerous robust options to provide military support to Kyiv. This move comes as Ukraine faces the largest missile and UAV attacks to date in the over 3-year-long war, particularly airstrikes that have raised concerns about gaps in Kyiv's air defenses. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell stated that the Department of Defense continues to provide the president with robust options regarding military aid to Ukraine, in line with his goal of ending this war. He added that the department is seriously reviewing and adjusting its approach to achieve that goal while maintaining combat readiness and prioritizing U.S. defense. According to U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce, this is not a termination of support for Ukraine or the provision of weapons, but rather a specific event, a particular situation, and the U.S. will continue to discuss other situations in the future. Tammy Bruce also stated that the president has expressed continued commitment to the Patriot missile system, referring to the air defense weapon that plays a critical role in repelling Russian attacks. Under former President Joe Biden, Washington committed to providing over $65 billion in military aid to Ukraine since 2022, when the conflict erupted. However, since taking office in January this year, President Trump, who has long been skeptical about aid to Ukraine, has not announced any new military aid packages for Kyiv. On July 2nd, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the country is conducting technical-level discussions with the U.S. regarding the provision of defense aid, particularly air defense components.
Today, the ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs of Ukraine also reported, in particular regarding relations with the United States, technical-level discussions between Ukraine and the U.S. are ongoing to clarify all details related to the delivery of defense aid, especially air defense components. One way or another, we must ensure protection for our people.
Washington's decision to temporarily halt certain critical weapons shipments to Ukraine has led Kyiv to warn that this move will weaken its ability to defend against increasingly intense airstrikes and battlefield advances. Ukraine stated that it summoned the U.S. charge d'affaires in Kyiv to emphasize the importance of continued military aid from Washington, while warning that any disruption would embolden Russia in the war in Ukraine. The Pentagon's decision, stemming from concerns that U.S. military stockpiles are at critically low levels, began in recent days and includes 30 Patriot air defense missiles, which Ukraine relies on to intercept fast-moving ballistic missiles, according to 4 sources familiar with the decision on Wednesday. He said, the decision also includes nearly 8,500 155mm artillery shells, over 250 precision-guided GMLRS artillery rockets, and 142 Hellfire air-to-ground missiles, according to the sources. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense stated that it has not received official notification of the suspension of these shipments and is seeking clarification with its U.S. counterparts. On the same day, senior Ukrainian lawmaker Fedyr Venezlovsky stated that the suspension is painful for Kyiv's efforts to defend against Russian airstrikes.
This decision is certainly very unpleasant for us. It's painful, and against the background of the terrorist attacks which Russia commits against Ukraine, against peaceful towns, cities, villages, citizens of Ukraine that die almost every day from such terrorist attacks, it's a very unpleasant situation. I think that our diplomats and the president's office, as well as the president himself, will talk to the American side, and let's hope that this situation will be resolved. Missiles for Patriot anti-aircraft missile systems are unique and are produced only by the United States of America. Any transfer of such weapons in accordance with international rules of trade and arms supply requires the consent of the manufacturer. That is, if the United States of America approves the transfer of such missiles by those countries that have them, then Ukraine has a chance to receive them.
In response to the above information, Kyiv residents expressed disappointment over the news of the U.S. partially suspending military aid, but said they were not surprised, citing months of political instability in Washington.
I'm not surprised, to be honest. I somehow expected this, especially given the developments over the past 3 or 4 months. We cooperate with our European partners, so I think that our leadership saw it coming, and the unstable behavior of U.S. President Donald Trump and his team, and their infights.
If we end up in a situation where there's no air defense left, I will move because my safety is my first concern. I am already having thoughts about moving out now.
I believe that the USA have become an unreliable partner. I'm still thankful to them for the aid they provided at the beginning of the war.
It will get only worse. They put it on a halt for now, but they can cease their aid altogether. I don't know. Don't expect good things.
It is a very bad thing for us because even before that announcement, we had already started to face a problem with repelling drones and missiles. I cannot imagine what will happen when we run out of our entire stockpile.
We are running out of air defense stockpile and we need aid. Unfortunately, there is no alternative to Patriot missiles for shooting down Kinzhal missiles, air-surface ballistic missiles used by Russia.
On the Russian side, the Kremlin welcomed the suspension, stating that the fewer weapons delivered to Kyiv, the sooner the conflict will end.
As far as we understand, the reason for this decision was empty stockpiles, a shortage of these weapons in storage. In any case, the less weaponry is supplied to Ukraine, the closer the end of the special military operation.
Leonid Slutsky, chairman of the Russian State Duma Committee on International Affairs, stated that Ukraine still believes it is an ally of the U.S., but in reality, it is not. This Russian official remarked that for the previous U.S. administration, Ukraine was a springboard to counter Russia. But for the current administration, Ukraine is no longer a priority for Washington. Slutsky also noted that NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte confirmed this, having previously pledged continued support for President Zelensky on the sidelines of the alliance summit, but described the Russia-Ukraine talks in Istanbul as not serious. Slutsky added that Mark Rutte is now concerned that Ukraine will not be able to hold out without military support from Western countries. Sky. Slutsky argued that Ukraine, having lost its supply of weapons from the U.S., should seriously consider Russia's memorandum on a peaceful resolution. He emphasized that the situation on the battlefield is rapidly deteriorating for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and others, while urging Ukraine to seriously consider Russia's proposals, including the memorandum that has been delivered to the Ukrainian side and remains on the negotiating While the Ukrainian people grow increasingly anxious about the weakening of their air defense capabilities and their leaders seek assurances from Western allies on the other side, Russia sees this as an opportunity to advance its military campaign and intensify negotiation pressure. Amid the escalating vortex of conflict and the strategic calculations of major powers, Ukraine's future once again falls into a spiral of uncertainty.